Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to our Martin and Associates webinar series. Thank you all for joining today. We greatly appreciate it. My name is Chris Isbell with Martin and Associates, and my colleague Tom Ferris and I will be showing you kind of what's new in Acumatica 2023 R2. We're excited to cover, some of the highlights of this great new release. As a reminder, Acumatica has 2 releases per year, normally in the April and October timeframe. So we'll be covering the latest release that just came out about a month ago. And you'll see there's some great new features. Perfect. Thank you, Tom. Before I jump into the agenda real quick, just a reminder that we are recording this presentation and you should get a link later in the next couple days. If you have any questions, please use the Zoom chat or Q&A feature and type those away and we'll answer them, via chat, or might pose that to Tom if we can see that. And then those are our little housekeeping items. All right. So briefly, Martin and Associates, most of you know who we are. We've been around here in Cincinnati since 1988. I've been doing Acumatica since 2014, 2015. But the highlight of today is kind of Acumatica 2023 R2, Release 2. And so there's some great new features in these core areas. So CRM, Acumatica's integrated CRM, will be showing some new features there. In the financial core, so GL, AP, banking, that type of stuff, as well as inventory and distribution. So, sales orders, purchase orders, as well as manufacturing, the e-commerce integrations with Shopify and BigCommerce, and some, helpful kind of back-end stuff and for those admin type people in the technology development area as well. All righty. So again, it's Chris, me, and Tom Ferris running this, and I'm going to hand it over to Tom, our Acumatica practice manager, and let him run with the demo. Thanks, Tom.
Chris, thank you very much for the introduction. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. So most of today's attendees know us at Martin Associates. So thank you, customers, prospects, and those that are kind of just curious about Acumatica alike. We really appreciate your time. I'll go through these slides about Martin Associates just briefly here and get us really to what we're all interested in, and that is the demo content. So I'll hit escape there, and let's bring Acumatica online. And we'll move through the agenda kind of linearly. Chris will be monitoring while I'm presenting the chat and or questions. So again, feel free to chime in. We'd be happy to answer questions. Sometimes those questions are really valuable to other participants on an informational webinar like today. All right, we begin with, as Chris mentioned, Acumatica's integrated CRM. So let's pull up really CRM. Primary workspaces would be marketing and opportunities. And within these two, Acumatica has introduced something new called sales territories. And in previous releases of Acumatica, we've been able to manage sales territories, sometimes through the salesperson record itself, through sub-accounts, maybe even through natural account changes. But what this allows us to do here, so if we just come up with a test instance here, we can define the territory by country, state, or other. State's fairly common. So if we leave it there by state for the US. Then that allows us to basically say sales territory test 1 is associated with these states. And then once we have these configurations in place, they can be associated with customers, the salesperson records themselves. And it just means that there's another dimension for security, budgeting, monitoring, say opportunity pipeline, as well as close rate, now based on the sales territory, where a lot of times in the past, Martin Associates, we would solve for sales territory by coming up with a branch or a sub-account structure in Acumatica's other kind of non-sales centric configurations. We could accomplish the same, but this is a nice addition. So sales territories. If you have more detailed questions than today's kind of brief preview of features, reach out to Chris and Betsy and I and the Martin Associates team, and we'd be happy to dive in more detail. All right. Up next would be another aspect of the CRM function, and that is support. So support for our end customers, where we can book a case. And that's just fine. Leave that behind. Where we can book a case. No, sorry about that. There we go. So a case can be created in a number of ways. For those who aren't familiar with Acumatica's integrated CRM and all of its capacities, a case can be created by an end customer of ours. Out in the field, one option is that they could be creating a case through a self-service portal. They could be emailing us, and the email could automatically create the case, or we pick up the phone, or we react to an email, and we establish a case on their behalf. And the case is basically carved out into classes. Who's our customer? Which contacted our customer? And what are they asking about? They're asking for information. They're asking for us to send a field service tech. All manner of reasons why we would use a case to set up what actions we are going to perform, and then record activities against that, etc. One new event that Acumatica added, or capacity that Acumatica added, was to initiate over in really the sales and distribution module a return order. So having a case bridge over to basically RMA activity, return for credit, return for replacement. This button basically has the case and the return order linked to one another. So if we hit go on this and create a return order, we'll see our kind of typical return types. I mentioned return for credit, and true RMA. There are other options. And when we establish that, Acumatica has continued to expand on the relations tab, and it will keep track of what is the derivative and what is the source of each record. So the case and the RMA will be in a source and derivative pair that basically links them to. So if I'm on the RMA case, and I'm handling inbound material, I'm issuing a credit memo, or I'm issuing replacement material, I can see the case from which that originated. All right. Chris, any other comments or highlights on either sales territories or return order from case?
No, the sales territories would be great, but really the being able to quickly make that return order right from a case is going to be, that's a good one. I really enjoy that one.
Excellent. Cool. All right. Next up is some highlights in the financial core. Really the biggie is a new payment processing engine that they are calling Acumatica Payments. The Martin Associates team and other resellers like us have only seen the initial introduction, but it looks promising. I'll give us a little bit of context. First, I would start off with basically reminding us all on this call that the features that we're going over today, you can actually find them online, and there are many other features that we are not covering today that Acumatica publishes. Every time a new release comes out, per Chris's introduction, 2023 part 2, help.acumatica.com gets updated. And so if we come in here into the search and look for release notes, we'll see this is the list of improvements that Acumatica made from 2023 R1, which came out in March of 2023, to this 2023 R2. So these are all the new things that they added. And there's sales territories and the support contracts. The support to return is in this list. Why am I not seeing it? Oh, there it is. So if you wanted to dive into more detail without calling Martin Associates, you can just go to help.acumatica.com, look for release notes, and you can see all the new things that Acumatica added. Obviously, today we're only covering a small sampling of things that we felt might be relevant, most relevant to our customers. All right. So Acumatica Payments. Let's get to that. So first off, if you're interested in this, this will give it a little bit more context. If we are in, say, a test system, like I am, on the enable disable features, that's fine. Acumatica's payment processing capabilities. For integrated card processing. So Acumatica has long supported authorize.net. Stripe is a relatively new addition. And then for many of our customers, we're enlisting the custom payment plugin. And that's our third-party folks like Paya and eBizCharge and others, where we can actually put their code package in under this umbrella and then use them for integrated card processing. The new release is Acumatica Payments, and it promises to be a comprehensive solution for credit card and ACH processing, including links right from a sales order. So that's maybe one highlight I'll do. I'm going to invite those on this call who are interested further in Acumatica Payments as an option to reach out to Chris and I. It is still in beta, although it does look promising. Basically, the publisher is looking to kind of bring in-house the capability for all manner of card processing, including streamlining reconciliation to the merchant statement. Mm-hmm. So let's pick on a sales order here to get a little bit of visibility to what that can look like. I think I have this set up. Come on, sales order. Yeah, that's what we're looking for. Now, a number of other providers, third-party ISV extensions to Acumatica for card processing provide the equivalent. But if we pick on, okay, so I don't have processing center set up in our demo system, but this payment links is new to Acumatica 2023 R2, and it works for other third-party extensions, but one of the reasons it was designed by Acumatica in this release was to accommodate Acumatica Payments natively, the ability to create a payment link and actually send that payment link to customers. In fact, it's even printable as like a two-dimensional QR code on a sales order or a sales confirmation form, allowing customers to pay or partially pay their invoice and even visit a small payment portal to see their total AR balance to you. All right. Chris, based on what you saw, any other highlights to Acumatica Payments that you might point out in this kind of introduction?
It will work in the customer portal as well. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
The Acumatica customer portal.
Yeah, I think we got preliminary answers from Acumatica that it will work in the portal. In some ways, it looks like it almost allows you to perform payment functions without the customer portal. But those are some questions that are TBD among the Associates team. We haven't had a chance to actually test it. We're just excited about the possibility that it might lower costs for customers. It might not. But one of the primary benefits would be that it's integrated and fully supported by the publisher, Acumatica, versus us all relying on a third party.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So an introduction to Acumatica Payments. More to come over the coming months as we get our hands on it and can actually test it. All right. If there weren't any questions or highlights in the financial core that Chris wanted me to cover, I'm going to move on next to some inventory and distribution functions. Okay. So let's go to manage sales allocations. This is a brand new process form which allows allocations across sales orders per warehouse. Lines. There we go. Gotcha. So this feature allows allocations, and to remind us all, if I pick on say a particular stock item, and what's the status of our stock item? I've got 20 on hand in this warehouse and 97 in this warehouse. And how much of what I have on hand is quote spoken for? And the inventory allocation details is kind of the primary way that we might understand current allocations of that SKU. Really? How's it they have nothing in there? That is very surprising. There aren't any allocations. All right, well, here, then I'll just kind of highlight it this way. So how's a given stock item allocated? I have it listed on sales orders that are on back order. So that wouldn't really affect the quantity on hand, but that's one type of allocation. For quantity on hand, I could basically have some of the quantity that's on hand already allocated to a sales order while it's still on hold, or a sales order that is been taken off hold and is open. I could have allocations associated with shipping. So if someone is in the middle of pick, pack, and ship activities, or I could have had someone conduct a hard allocation and say, I want to basically move a notch up from, say, booked and actually hard allocate on-hand inventory to a particular sales order line. And a lot of that behavior is going to be driven by our availability calculation rules. So let's pull that up here too. That's relevant. And let's just pick one here. All right. So those allocations that I was just kind of going through, we elect often on a per inventory class or for all items. Just depends on how you have the availability calculation rules established on inventory classes or item classes. We basically have pessimist and optimist columns. How optimistic are we about incoming warehouse to warehouse transfers, purchase orders, in saying that that inventory is quote available, even though it's not here yet and on hand. And on the pessimistic side or the negative side, if it's on hand and is it fits one of these allocation categories, then it's not considered available for others, right? So we've already had all these processes were already present in Acumatica with 2023 R2. Acumatica introduces managing those allocations en masse. So this is like an order priority ranking that can be established where we see potential collisions for allocations, and we can manage them en masse. It's filterable. We could be establishing subsets of information. It's a process form in Acumatica, so it can be scheduled to run, and we might schedule it to run on certain filter conditions. We like to say 80-20 rule. 80% of what this process form should do should just happen automatically. I can just set up filters and schedules, multiple of each, and have allocations managed by the machinery according to business rules. And the remaining 20% are the exceptions that I actually have to pay attention to on the managed sales allocations. So this is a way to manage allocations en masse and avoid collisions, stockouts for high priority customers, etc. Chris, any comments on managing sales allocations en masse?
I have none. Thank you.
Okay, off we go. Next topic. Our sales order. I brought it up earlier to kind of highlight payment links, but Acumatica has also enhanced the totals tab on our sales orders to give us margin. So if you have the CRM module and you're used to putting together opportunities and quotes, especially project quotes, for example, where you get a prediction of margin, that's a pretty nice feature. And then the sales orders kind of lost that, certainly while you're in process. Yes, there's all sorts of profitability monitoring reports in the sales order workspace, sales profitability by person, by item class. There's a whole bunch of sales profitability reports, but that's after the fact. As you assemble a sales order, there certainly are monitoring features about unit price and unit costs, and thus profitability. And there are some profitability thresholds on a per line item basis that will flag if salespersons say drop the price for an item. Let's get it even thinner here. Too far. There will be, and I didn't trigger it there on this one, but there are line level prompts about margin thresholds not being met. But that was on a per line basis. And with 2023 R2, Acumatica extends to the order totals tab some anticipated costs. And obviously you're declaring what the price is, but the underlying costs aren't really realized until we actually go through the create shipment and actually pull inventory and pull particular serial numbers, particular lots from particular locations, from particular cost layers. It's not really known. But at least Acumatica's sales order is attempting to estimate the margin, the resulting margin on this sale. So, some useful metrics for tuning sales pricing processes. Up next, I'll just do like a verbal mention. Invoices for non-stock items not requiring shipment. That one I haven't actually really delved into the context for it, so that just gets an honorable mention. That non-stock items, so services, legal services, where we've told a purchase order and purchase receipt process that we don't. I'm sorry, if we're delivering services, if we're delivering services that don't actually require physical shipment, we can accomplish an invoice more easily. Chris, had you looked at that particular feature? I wasn't prepared to actually demo that one, so
I have not dug much into that one yet. Sorry.
Okay, gotcha. So if it rings a bell, the idea that like, oh, it's really difficult to have generated invoices rather than a shipment record when there are lines on the sales order that are service related, Acumatica allows us to skip the create shipment process for those lines and go straight to invoice. But I didn't have a demo record ready for that. The last thing that I'll bring up is let's see if my record here is ready to allow me to kind of create a shipment record here. This last part is allowing defined. Nope, didn't have anything ready on that one. So let's do it this way. Let's just go pop into a shipment record. Right, pick on a open shipment. When and if we are defining packages, either defining packages manually during, in pick, pack, and ship, the middle part, the packing part, about saying possibly what content is going into what box and how much does it weigh, and thus I can actually achieve through integrated shipping the tracking ID from the carrier for that particular ship via. It is this box dimension that Acumatica has allowed boxes to be editable on the fly. So where this might apply, if we look at a given SKU, we can say for packaging automation, I want that packing form to react to the SKU's weight and or volume, and then understand how many of them will fit by weight or by volume, etc., into the boxes that I have configured on behalf of carriers. Carriers have told me what the dimensions are, it's maximum weight, maximum volume. So when my folks get to that packing activity, the system should do at least some of the work for me. So this new extension allows for boxes to be configured on the fly. In the past, what it meant is we go look at the boxes list. We're putting together a list of boxes that are or are not aligned with a given carrier's dimension, right? So this is UPS's large, UPS's medium, etc. And then these dimensions were fixed. If we have items that are too long, too skinny, etc., and we actually have to craft boxes on the fly, that used to be a real pain. It would be either there'd be some generic box, or someone would have to come in and create this box. And so 2023 R2 allows, if applicable, to let certain boxes, and you can only, by the subset, possibly be editable, where the dimensions can be editable if someone needs to reconfigure a box to fit an outbound shipment. All right, so box dimension editability on the fly. Obviously, that'll mean that the carrier needs to have that fresh data to calculate freight charges, but that is a nice bit of flexibility. All right. That is all I had for inventory and distribution features. We are on to manufacturing, unless there are questions or comments.
None yet, but if you have any, please let me know and we'll get those answered or talked about. Thank you.
Super. All right. Up next is in the manufacturing topic. Production tickets or travelers, with or without barcoding. And I should be able to pick on a given production order. And what happened there? Let's do it this way. Sorry about that. Oh yeah, I'm right there. Let's just pick on a production order and fire that up. That's planned, that's fine. That'll work. Did they expose that here? Critical materials? No. Okay. Why am I struggling to find it? Place that order. Hang on, just a moment. I'm just looking for the prompt to get this printed here. There. Right. All right. So our production ticket. The extension that I wanted to basically bring up is this image or a stream of these images in the past. Sometimes there's zebra printers that need to kind of react to this, or a variety of printers. And Acumatica extends with 2023 R2 the ability to print these production orders using a device hub link. It really just adds flexibility. It's brand new, so I haven't come across a manufacturer that was having print challenges that haven't been solved some other way. But if you have multiple production floor printers, reach out to Chris and I and the rest of the Martin Associates team and inquire about the new device hub support for printing production tickets. Okay. Up next would be some changes to MRP and its relationship to inventory replenishment. All right, so let's do this. So this is really leveraging existing functionality, but making it a little bit more clear about how those processes are used. So let's do this. Let's go into inventory. Take a look at our stock item master. And this will kind of pertain to both distribution and manufacturing customers. Our stock item master, we're on our rock stock Acer laptop example that's been part of Acumatica sales demos for 10 years. But we're seeing a brand new field called planning method. And it invites us, and this can be set at the item class level as well. And it will depend on your software license that you have. But planning method basically says, are you leveraging Acumatica's stock item level and inventory module replenishment, or are you using MRP for replenishment? All right, so to give that this little new drop down box a little bit more context, what used to be called replenishment has now been relabeled in 2023 R2 on the stock item master as inventory planning. And inventory planning, what did I have this one set at? This one's at inventory replenishment. I'll toggle that to MRP, save that. And now it's expecting it will be MRP that reacts to your desired source. I replenish this item through transferring from another warehouse. I replenish this item by purchasing this item from said vendors, or I manufacture this item. And that's just kind of taking advantage of MRP. So to bring up another screen, you'll notice that material requirements planning, the workspace has been relabeled to inventory planning. Let's show all here, and I want to have at least regenerate and inventory planning display on there. So MRP display has been relabeled to inventory planning display. And this will work just as we expect MRP to do when the stock items are set to planning method. MRP, it basically says, even if I am purchasing something, I don't want to leverage the inventory planning replenishment settings. What I want is for these MRP settings about, say, safety stock or reorder point and or min-max to trigger MRP to pay attention to that particular SKU. The alternative, if we set this to inventory replenishment and save, is to have established replenishment parameters. And another way to look at that is on a per warehouse basis. So let's pop into the wholesale warehouse. So from an inventory planning perspective, I don't want to use MRP. I want to use inventory replenishment purchasing. And I have a min and a max. In this case, I'd have like a reorder point and a max quantity that would impact, in this case, purchase orders. And with that setting, I would not be using MRP, what used to be called MRP display. Instead, I'd be using these replenishment features. So let's do this way. I'd be basically saying, I want you to prepare replenishment for the item. And this process would be applicable to manufacturers who want to leverage the prepare replenishment and save MRP for only manufacturing prompts or certain product lines. So you could actually differentiate. You could have some activity go through MRP and others go through what I'm showing here. So on the wholesale warehouse, it's prepare replenishment, and it's going to be reacting to a quantity to process based on what do you have on hand, what have you told me about safety stock or reorder point, as well as maximum purchases. This first line would be, it's saying 5 because you told me to maintain a safety stock level of 7. You told me to purchase a maximum of 7. I already have 2, so go purchase 5. So that would be step 1 is prepare replenishment. Again, like so many other process screens, this can be running on schedule. And then the second step would be with replenishment processed would be, purchases. The second step in that process would be to create the resulting purchase orders. So, all right, that was kind of a lot. So if you're in distribution, nothing changes. It's just that Acumatica will have added a field called inventory replenishment, which is what you were doing anyways. And then you are setting mins and maxes and continue to use prepare replenishment and create purchase order. If you're a manufacturer, you have a choice between delineating at the SKU level whether or not you replenish via MRP versus replenish via the inventory replenishment engine that the distribution core comes with. All right. That might be just clear as mud. Chris, any clarifying questions or comments before I move on?
No, it's just a good way to differentiate like what level of replenishment you need for that item. So pretty helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in the past, as a manufacturer, when you have access to MRP, you also had access to inventory replenishment. And theoretically, a user could trigger replenishment either way. And that led to confusion sometimes in some organizations. Like, hey, I like using MRP. Well, I like using the prepare replenishment and create purchase order processes. And that could lead to potential conflicts. Now you have a chance at the SKU level and the item class level. You could do like a mass replacement and you say, this is how we do it as an organization, right, in the stock item master. All right, cool. Last manufacturing topic is a new production order status. Let's just pull that up. The objective here is every production order is like its own little mini P&L. So if I pick on one that's, I don't have one in process. All right, completed, that'll work. A completed production order. And it's kind of mathematical totals. What was I expecting to expend on labor cost, material cost, variable overhead, thus producing a total of $913 to inventory at a cost of $91.30 each. And then what actually happened was actually manufactured inventory and what variances did I encounter along the way. And if I did have variance, some of it might have to be written to a WIP variance account. Acumatica introduces a new status change, and that is rather than just closing out the order, it's optional. You can leave the workflow to go from completed to close, which basically posts any remaining balance in WIP to the appropriate WIP variance account. Or you can basically lock the production order so that no additional transactions like operational moves or labor cost or material issuance can take place, but someone on the finance team could post a WIP adjustment to a production order. So it's basically like a financial lock. And if I go back to the production order screen, Acumatica has introduced an additional optional status. So a production order's life cycle is it's planned, then it's released, then we start working on it. It's completed, and it used to just move straight to closed. If you want to, in between completed and closed, you can lock a production order, allowing someone on the finance team to make WIP adjustments, save some of the financials. We might have issued material at the wrong cost. That's going to mess up the production orders math. We could put in a WIP adjustment correction for the improperly costed material, and yet I'll have to like redo that production order or back it out. Instead, we could just lock it and then unlock it and finally close it as an intermediary. All right, so it's really just kind of like an accounting process that's been injected into the manufacturing workflow. If there are any questions, I will move on next to some e-commerce topics. And I recognize I got about 15 minutes left. All right. First up is availability adjustment settings. So let's pull that up here. No, that's not where it resides. Sorry about that. Let's do it this way here. Let's go right to the release notes. Again, so I mentioned the release notes out there on help.acumatica.com, but in a given live instance, depending on what version you're on, the release notes are also available there under help topics. So if we pop into our release notes and we take a look at they didn't index this in my instance. Oh, hang on. Let's do it this way. Sorry about that. Let's do it this way. What's that? What's that? All right. So our e-commerce kind of highlights the availability adjustments settings right there in the stock item form. Okay, great. That's where I can reveal it. Excellent. All right. So what this allows e-commerce integration users to do is to tailor up or down what is actually available out on the web store, right? So despite what Acumatica might have listed as quantity on hand, we can modify that if applicable and knock that value down if we know we're getting ready to run a physical inventory, if we're about to send out a large shipment to fulfillment by Amazon or something like that, but it hasn't been reflected yet. We can adjust the quantity that is displayed on the web store through an availability adjustment. And that can be like a permanent fixture that always just ratchets down 25%, for example, or we just retain 100 units that are not visible to the web store. All right, so that's one part. The next enhancement to e-commerce, and there's a bunch of them, was Shopify getting better at B2B, essentially. Their platform's getting better at B2B, and thus the integration to Acumatica is growing with it. Acumatica works very closely with each of Shopify and BigCommerce, kind of tweaking in every release And even imageling releases the integration between Acumatica and those two storefronts. So the company entity is the new structure in Shopify. And now we're basically saying my employees at end customer, at a given end customer, purchase from you as a supplier as both individuals and also under a kind of a corporate business account in Shopify, and having those actually reflected in Acumatica customer records, and then the transactions is a new extension. Chris, if you dove into the kind of e-commerce manager and a Shopify B2B.
Just a very, very little bit.
Okay, gotcha. Again, if you have encountered this, or you are currently a Shopify customer, or you ruled out Shopify from a couple years ago, perhaps because it didn't handle both B2B and B2C, things are changing, and Shopify again keeps becoming more sophisticated. And so even some of the pigeonholing that Chris and I and others at Martin Associates used to do associated with Shopify's capabilities, they keep getting better. And so this is an example of Acumatica building an integration to leverage Shopify getting more sophisticated. Okay, again, if you want to go into more detail, we'd love to delve in with you. I need to keep going on my brief introduction here with these things. The last thing that I had in the e-commerce front also pertains to Shopify, and that's recognizing their fees in a little bit more sophisticated way. So there is a new capability in the payment settings on a given Shopify store to recognize what kind of fees that Shopify levels against each transaction, and then recording those more successfully against the sales order and the AR invoice. All right, that was it on the e-commerce front. Thank you for your patience. Got 10 minutes left. The remaining topics are some kind of platform administrative impact, potentially developers on Acumatica, whether that's work that Martin Associates is doing, a third party is doing, or you have technical development and team. So if you're not terribly interested in some of the technical improvements to Acumatica, thank you very much for your time. I'll move on. First up is Acumatica's migration process. I'm just going to pull it on screen. To .NET Core. That means that SOAP, S-O-A-P, is going to start getting deprecated, right? And then that'll be a process. It also means that if you are an API developer, that there are web service endpoint changes that have already begun, and then we'll kind of continue moving forward. All right, so that's kind of technical bulletin one, is Acumatica's web services migration to the .NET Core. I know that when they heard wind of this, some of the developers here on staff at Martin Associates, some 8, 9, 10 months ago were like, excellent, just kind of nice consistency thing. So over my pay grade, but there's that. Next up would be some enhancements to the mobile app. This will be kind of like across the board. So let's just pull that up here. Where'd that one go? Yeah, hopefully get some images from Acumatica. Yeah, there we go. All right, so if you're familiar with the mobile app, whether you're using it for expense receipting in the field, recording details on a sales opportunity, taking pictures of a delivery, there's basically just some general usability. First up is sorting, getting a little bit more sophisticated and easier to use. I thought there was a couple others that they had in there. Yeah, this image is not showing all of the enhancements, because there's another one. Yeah, that's funny. They didn't actually list it here. The next that resonated for me was the save button. You can see in the screenshot that like some of the prompts in the mobile app of like what you're actually supposed to do next, you almost had to know what they were rather than using a visual clue. So the save and update button, after you've edited a transaction, after you've added additional data to a transaction where that transaction was like an opportunity, a sales order, it wasn't totally clear that you actually needed to hit save before you left that screen on the mobile form. So they've bumped up the size of the save button in prominence. So it's nice. Again, I wish I had a better screenshot. If you're interested in mobile enhancements, again, Chris and I and the Martin Associates team, we can give you a demo of some of the nice cosmetic enhancements to the mobile platform. Just nice usability. All right, up next would be, and where is, let me just find it this way. Oh, they didn't put that in there. Okay. Spelling. Yeah, that one. There we go. Okay, cool. Some of these aren't all that easy to demonstrate. So up next would be Acumatica has long supported single sign-on, Active Directory, so Microsoft AD sign-in. So once you're logged into your Windows machine, Windows operating system, Windows domain, it meant that you could kind of not have to put your username and password in to applications like Acumatica. The next level of that now, direct sign-in is supporting third parties. Like I know that I've had a number of customers who employed Okta and were asking about that, and it's just gotten easier. These all kind of fall under the open ID providers, Okta being one of them, or at least one that I know. Oh, that's right, they mentioned it here. These platforms such as OneLogin and Okta. So if your IT team is super excited about credential management across the organization, at the workstation, at the domain level, Acumatica just got a little bit better. They're already pretty good, but now open ID provider association. All right. The last thing I had, right, is the intelligent text completion. All right. So we're all expecting, like our mobile phones, to get smarter. Where are we going there? Where did it go? Why is my search not working there for me? Text. Okay, well, I just have to bring it up. But the basically support of intelligent text completion is an option that can be turned on the administrative panel in Acumatica, and it allows for the system to leverage machine learning to get smarter about completing sentences, phrases, and even like short little strings being typed by users into the sales order form, into establishing a customer record. So Acumatica is basically joining the 21st century and having text completion suggestions built and improved upon through machine learning. I haven't truly started to test it yet to see how either annoying or helpful or a mix of both that it is, but supportive intelligent text completion is part of Acumatica 2023 R2. All right. Chris, did we have any questions or comments here in the remaining minutes?
Yeah, there's one. I know we don't have a lot of time left. Thank you guys for your paying attention. Big one is with regards to an upgrade, do I have to upgrade soon? How much time do I have? And then can I test the new features before I actually upgrade?
Yep. It's a fantastic question. So I'll start, and then Chris, you let me know how you would amend my response. First would be each of these releases has a shelf life of approximately 18 to 20 months. And so that means Acumatica provides full support for a release like 2023 R2 from now through about 18 to 20 months out on average. A best practice, ideally, is to be planning a major upgrade once a year. That will keep you ahead. That'll keep organizations ahead of the planned deprecation, or basically moving into non-support for a given version. To help customers get there, if you are a SaaS licensee, so you're working with Acumatica in the cloud, in the public cloud, then your license includes a free 90-day sandbox every time one of these releases comes out. So twice a year, new release comes out from Acumatica, R1 and R2. And with that, you are entitled to a free 90-day sandbox. That means we take a photocopy of the entire production system if we want, and Acumatica creates a new URL, folks to log in. We typically restrict who logs into that. And in that sandbox, you can rehearse, we call it regression testing. You can rehearse first that nothing about what you do now breaks. And then once you get through that threshold, spend some time testing these new fancy features that this session has been talking about. So you get a 90-day sandbox to test those things if you're a SaaS customer. If you are private cloud or you're hosted yourself, then we talk to Chris and I and the Martin Associates team member that you work with about how we actually spin up a sandbox outside of the SaaS environment. Absolutely. What else would you add to that, Chris?
I wouldn't add anything. Just, I know some of you might be on the always current, which is where Acumatica upgrades for you. And that works well for people that don't have any customizations. But if you're not sure, reach out. If you have any questions, please reach out and we'll help coordinate any upgrades and testing.
Excellent. Did that kind of answer the question, Chris, do you think?
I believe it did. Yes. Thank you very much.
Okay. Excellent. Well, I just want to say thank you. And I'll let Chris close this out. It was a pleasure showing you guys some new features. We look forward to any questions that this might have generated.
Absolutely. So again, reach out to, your Acumatica team here or myself or Tom directly, and look forward to the next one. Everybody have a great day.